Tonight on the Fanatic Forum, we're going to dive into the Fanatic favorites here. Movies and TVs that stuff I grew up with, stuff I love, whatever else. Tonight's selections, The Sword and the Sorcerer and Iron Eagle. Plus, we got a whole bunch of comic reviews and a lot more than that. Well, stay tuned right after this. Hey everybody, happy Friday and welcome to the Fanatic Forum. I'm your Fanatic and host, George Buehler. Hope you guys had a good week out there. It is, I guess, weather-wise around here, it is officially fall, so yeah. I had a couple of nice days. Yeah, I almost wear shorts, but yeah, it is officially fall season. So yeah, I enjoy the Thanksgiving holiday. That's a cool part, and Halloween's great too. But man, I don't like the weather, and probably allergy sufferers probably don't like that either. So there you go. But anywho, hope you guys have a good one too. Uh, lots of fun stuff this weekend. Of course, you can go out and see the Thanksgiving movie, the Eli Roth film, which I can't believe it's taken this long for it to come out. I mean, we teased it. They, did the fake trailer in Grindhouse, which came out, gosh, more than 15 years ago, I think. But yeah, why it's taking that. But anyway, so I'm glad to see that. I'll definitely check that out. Of course, saw the Marvels last weekend. I enjoyed that thoroughly. And of course, my wife, Michelle, she absolutely loved it. I think it's her new favorite Marvel movie because, you've got like superpowered ladies, women working together, doing kind of, stuff like that, saving the universe, and a whole lot of flirting. So, you can't go wrong. Anywho, but yeah, so good stuff there. One little fun bit of Marvel MCU news I uncovered today, and now you guys may have seen the same article here. Robert Kirkman was being interviewed, basically just promoting the new season of Invincible that's currently on episode 3 right now on Amazon. Love that show. And was talking about, Stephen Yeun, who, of course, does the lead voice for Mark Grayson, aka Invincible himself. We all know him as Glenn from Walking Dead. We know that Steven has got an upcoming role in the Thunderbolts movie. I guess that's coming out in 2025. I believe that's when it's slated for. But it's been a mystery role. Been highly speculated as to what it's going to be. Robert Kirkman kind of spilled the beans during the interview that Stephen Yeun will be, in fact, playing the Sentry. Even so much that he's been getting fitted for a suit. So, and they made a joke about him having a tendency to play superheroes that wear blue and gold. So that will be very interesting, seeing as normally in the comic books, the Sentry is, when he's in his superhero form, because usually when he's in his human alter ego, Bob Reynolds, he's a normal size, kind of schlubby little white dude. And then when he's the Sentry, he's basically, the picture of Aryan perfection, blonde hair, blue eyes, giant, superhero, powerful dude, whatnot. So that will be an interesting interpretation if you've got Stephen Yeun playing him. So we'll see how that's going to go here. But hopefully Stephen hits the gym because he's going to need to bulk up. But yeah, I always saw the Sentry as a very tall, very stature looking dude. So yeah, I don't know. Interesting interpretation. We'll see how that goes here. Dave Magley chiming in already here. Good to see you, Mr. Dave. So the titles work as a mashup too. The Iron Sword and the Sorcerer and the Eagle. They do work up as a mashup. Interesting. And both of those movies sound like they could have existed as other, 80s, but like, sword and sandal films. And Dave says he's looking forward to seeing the Sentry and Thunderbolts. Yeah, I am too. That's going to be an interesting interpretation here. And what better way to say I love you than the gift of a spatula. Amen to that, Dave. You know, and that's the great thing about Spatula City is, you know, the bargains. You know, buy 9 spatulas, get the 10th one for a penny. Like, come on. Anywho, but yeah, so I thought the Stephen Yoon thing was very interesting. You know, a little spillage there, and Kirkman doesn't care. He's like, I don't work for Marvel, and you know, what are they gonna do? So, anywho, I've got a lot of comic reviews today because, of course, this was a big week for books. This is like the second week this month where I've had, you know, a large, you know, because I, beginning of the month I had a very large week. The week after that it was a very small week. Again, large week this week here. I had like I think 25 books this week here, so lots of stuff to get through here. But we'll start off with DC because I have one offering from DC this week that is basically my absolute favorites. I'll go through here. So I've got one DC and a couple of independents here that are my absolute top picks of the week here. First and foremost, got to give some credit to Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly for bringing back The Outsiders. This time on the group, we've got Kate Kane, Batwoman. This is Luke, there we go. This is Luke Fox, used to be known as Batwing. And the woman over in the corner here, that is Drummer. Yes, this is basically a new interpretation of Planetary. So, and if you remember Planetary, that was a Warren Ellis DC book where you had a trio of heroes that basically they investigated the weird secrets of the DC universe. They were basically kind of like weirder than the X-Files, weirder than the Doom Patrol, sort of stuff like that. But a very beloved series. I think it went like about 60 some odd issues. I think I had a couple of different tie-ins and whatnot, you know, little one-shots. But absolutely fantastic book. Warren Ellis at his best. And so The Outsiders is somewhat of a revival of that. So may even be a full-fledged revival. We shall see. But some hints were dropped. This, of course, is not the same drummer that was in the original Planetary. That was a guy, and this is a older woman here. They're depicting her as maybe like someone like in her like 50s, 60s, something like that. But yeah, nonetheless, this is basically, you know, a Planetary-like team with funding from the Lucius Fox family. So, and that's basically their whole thing is like go out and find weird stuff, find weird secrets. So, yeah, I'm very excited to see where the book goes from there. But yeah, when the kind of there's one particular scene in the book that's a full-on yes, this is kind of a revival of Planet. This is a revival of Planetary. Honestly, with Lansing and Kelly, a great pick. Their run on Captain America: Sentinel of Liberty. Oops, hang on here, knocking stuff off here. Sorry, folks. Yeah, their run on Captain America: Sentinel of Liberty I thought was fantastic. I love the espionage kind of conspiracy sort of stuff like that. So yeah, I'm with it there. Seth Moore, how you doing, sir? What's up, good sir? Hey, show me them comics. You bet. That's what we are doing, man. And of course, got to give a plug, my boy. If you have not checked out the Smokes and Road Beers podcast, you need to do yourself a favor and do that. It's on Facebook and the Rumble platform. I believe it's kind of like YouTube. I'm not familiar with it, but anyway. But Facebook and Rumble, Smokes and Road Beers podcast. They go live Thursdays at 6:30 Eastern. They're pop culture, things in the news, things in technology, wrestling, all sorts of stuff like that. So they're all over the place. I got the pleasure of being on their show last week. Had a blast with them. So yeah, check them out, won't you? All right, couple of indies here. Other top picks of the week here. The Deviant from Image Comics. This is a James Tynion book here. Joshua Hickson does the art. And also you've got Hassan Otsame Ilahu. I hope I probably massacred that name. But this is definitely a Christmas-themed horror book here. There we go. Get the glare off there. Basically what you got is a Crazy guy killing young men in 1973 Chicago around Christmas time. Flash forward to 2023. A comic book writer is interviewing basically the guy who was put away, accused of committing said murders, and trying to get information, write a story, yada, yada, yada. Just start a rapport relationship with him to get information out of him. All the while, Crazy Santa Murder is back killing people, but the guy who supposedly did it has been locked up for 30 years. So who's the Santa guy? And is this the one who actually did it back in 73? So it's a 3-part series. Like I said, very creepy art. Yeah, absolutely love it. So this is like a much more serious and better Silent Night, Deadly Night for Christmas themed horror fans there. And another two obvious picks of the week here. You can't go wrong with a little G.I. Joe here. First off, this is a remastered #1, as it was in 1982. It's just the book. They didn't redo the ads because that was a Marvel book, so they can just redo the content. But one special thing about this particular remastering, and I guess facsimile, is that in 1982, Marvel made a couple of editorial choices with some of the dialogue that was against Larry Hama's wishes. Basically, changing Larry's initial speeches that Colonel Hawk would be making to the team, kind of, echoing a little more Reaganomics, Djangoistic sort of stuff like that. So it wasn't Larry's message whatsoever. Larry was always kind of stuck in his craw about that for 40 almost 40 years. So actually over 40 years. Anyway, but yeah, so thankfully, Image and Skybound restored that dialogue in here. So yeah, it's really cool. The pages have kind of like a newsprint kind of feel too, so it's very old school. And of course, all the extra like supplementary stuff that was in there, like the layout of the pit and profiles on characters, and the secondary story Hot Potato is also restored in here because there have been times where GI Joe #1 has been reprinted and the secondary story is always cut. But no, the full book is in here, and yeah, absolutely gorgeous. And also the return of G.I. Joe issue number 301. And this is a fantastic return, of course, pretty much going right off where Larry Hama's IDW run ended at 300. So if you know that story, it's going right off from there. But you've got covers done by the great Andy Kubert. Look at that artwork. The interior art is done by Chris Mooneyham, and it is fantastic, folks. You may know Chris Mooneyham best from the series Five Ghosts, which was a fantastic series over at Image, very pulp sort of feel to it, kind of a Saturday morning serial sort of thing like that, treasure hunter, sort of thing, but was also possessed with 5 literary ghosts. I think I may have even talked about the series before, but absolutely love that. Chris Mooneyham's art for G.I. Joe is just perfection. Has a very pulpy, gritty feel to it, so it adds a whole new level to G.I. Joe here. Yeah, absolutely love it. So couldn't love it anymore. Very excited about where we're going with the rest of the series there. So, Bill Doris is popping up in here. How you doing, sir? This is, does our shop have a copy of the original silent issue of G.I. Joe? No, we do not. So that's issue number 21, by the way. Not that one. Trying to think. I have seen the Zone in Louisville, which I think is in the St. Matthews area. I think I've seen them solicit through their Facebook that they have a copy, or I'm not sure if it's graded or if it's raw or whatnot. But yeah, kind of a tough one to find because it's still a big key issue. Even though they actually did the anniversary remastering over at IDW, where basically a different artist tackled every page of the book. So the content was the same, but the art was a little different. But yeah, that book is 40 years old now. Crazy. But yeah, so we currently, Collaborative Comics, do not have G.I. Joe 21, and I don't believe our Shepherdsville location does either. But yeah, I'm very well aware of our G.I. Joe back stock. But yeah, that would be a big one there for sure. Seth's, Pick up the new G.I. Joe. Oh, they basically kind of give you a rundown at the beginning of the book of what's going on with, basically, kind of a very quick overview of GI Joe, and then also a quick overview of like previously on, sort of thing like that. But basically, what had been happening was there was another attempt to essentially make a new Serpentor by Dr. Mindbender. Excuse me. This time, however, instead of multiple world leaders being injected into Serpentor, they decided to go with one, Genghis Khan. So now you have this Genghis Serpentor, basically, who's now trying to run Cobra. He's updated to current technological, military, everything like that. So, he has all of his ancient knowledge and wisdom of conquering and, combat and yada, yada, yada. But he's also up to date on everything current, too. However, he's also a wee bit nuts. So, and also in the process, Cobra was trying to essentially make their own Snake Eyes. So now we essentially have three Snake Eyes running around. We've got the original Snake Eyes, now revived from the dead, is kind of copycats, fill in, which was his student Kamakura, and then Dawn, who was essentially a clone of Snake Eyes, also like become a Cobra youth trainee sort of thing like that, and so she's kind of burdened with Snake Eyes' abilities and some of his memories. But she's also has her own memories, and so it's kind of a weird sort of match of the character. But yeah, so it is very lore heavy, but they kind of give you a little bit of like here's what you need to know going into it. So, but it should be pretty easy to pick up there. Nothing too terribly new or crazy that anyone need to be aware of, but yeah, but definitely there's some all the characters you know and love are back, and just like I said, Chris Mooneyham's art was just perfection here. Oh, thank you, Dave. Clarifying, yes, the zone is in St. Matthews on Hubbard's Lane. So yes, there you go. So yeah, and see, and I'm not just I plug my shop, Clobbering Comics, all the time, but in Louisville there are many, many fine shops there, and the zone is certainly one of those. They're also a great place if you're a G.I. Joe Classifieds fan. If you have trouble finding them in stores around the area, the zone is the place to go because the owner there is a huge Joe fan. So he's got classifieds there for days, and he's got all the current ones and some older ones too. So yeah, great place there. Dave's comment, a ninja intern. Yeah, I guess she is kind of a ninja intern. She's still new to the sort of thing like that. All right, and so the rest of the bunch here, some other good recommendations, books worth checking out. There's a new imprint from Alien for Marvel Comics. This one's written by Declan Shalvey, and Andrea Briccardo and Ruth Redmond are the art team on here. Very cool series here. This is kind of kicking off the events from the previous series, but 10 years later, essentially. So essentially, it's the daughter who survived it. And she's there in like a salvage mission, get information on possibly the aliens that are left over. Maybe there's a new species that's kind of been born, but she's also trying to see if she can find her android friend who may or may not have survived there. So, again, very cool series. I've enjoyed the alien stuff from Marvel, so this is just right in tune with it. Next up, Blade issue 5. This was a fantastic issue. We still are dealing with this basically queen of all evil here. I think her name is Adana. Yeah, she's got full like a Hellraiser kind of thing too, where like she has no skin right now walking around. She's still kind of like her body is still building and being revived. So yeah, she's wearing this kind of weird armor that's protecting her not having skin. But anyway, so she has proven to be a very formidable foe for Blade. He literally got his butt kicked by her. And so this issue number 5 ends with essentially a team up that never, ever, 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 ever in our lives will we ever thought Blade the Vampire Hunter would team with Dracula himself. But yeah, he needs some help to take care of this common problem they have now. So yeah, where that's going to go, I'm very curious. But yeah, Brian Hill's run on Blade has been fantastic. Uh, yeah, so the train heist issue in issue 4 was a lot of fun, but yeah, Blade got his butt handed to him. So yeah, he's got to recruit from other sides that he never thought he'd team up with. So we'll see how that goes. Last one from Marvel we'll talk about here. This has been a lot of fun. Saladin Ahmed, who is, of course, doing a killer job on his new run of Daredevil, has also given us spine-tingling Spider-Man, basically a Spider-Man horror story. So we still don't know what's going on. Everything kind of seems like a weird dream. Anytime he thinks we're getting a leg up, he's basically, excuse me, he's basically getting, shot back down again here. He thinks he's rescuing some friends, but perhaps not. But yeah, the art is really creepy and cool. It just, yeah, it. So you don't normally see horror stories for Spider-Man, but this one just, as the kids say, it slaps. Uh, Dave Anthony Chung says he still can't get over Blade wearing a tiny man thing called Boyd Thing as a scarf. Yeah, that was in Jason Aaron's run of Avengers. So yeah, Man Thing was helping out the Avengers, and he got kind of cut down to a small size. So he just decided to basically just stay small and hang out on Blade. So yeah, that they proved very handy numerous times there. But yeah, this tiny little version of Man Thing is hanging out with Blade. So very reminiscent of Batman hanging out with a small version of Starro, and he called himself Jarro, and then basically eventually came out of the jar he was in, walking around freely, and then donned himself a Robin suit. So he thought himself to be a Robin as well. So yes. Dark heroes with cute little things riding on their shoulders is a great little weird thing I love in comics sometimes. Got some indies to check out here. This is one that came out last week that I picked up kind of late, but actually was a hella fun book here. Dark Horse Comics Drive Like Hell. This is literally the story of a guy who's like a great car thief, getaway driver, sort of thing like that, and basically steals the wrong car. It is literally a car from hell that belongs to a demon. The demon wants this car back, but unfortunately, since this guy's a really good driver, he's going to be hard to catch in this car, but the demon has now possessed the entire police force, I think, of like 3 different counties. So this is very reminiscent of the end of the Blues Brothers, where they're being chased by like all the police and the army and all that kind of stuff, and like hundreds of police cars, and they're all getting in wrecks. Yeah, this is that part of the movie with like a little bit of a supernatural lean to it. So lots of fun, great car book here. But Rich Durick, Alex McCormick, Hassan Otsame. Oh, hey, the one guy I massacred earlier with the Deviant. So, yeah. So, great team on that one. So, I will definitely check that out. We didn't have that over at the E-Town Clobberin, but Clinton carried that over at the Shepherdsville Clobberin. So, I was over there and picked that one up. So, yeah, fun book there. Drive like Blues Brothers. I hate Illinois Demons. You know it. Yeah. Dave commenting earlier, Jaro is the best Robin. Possibly. That's a good argument there. I'm a big fan of Damien, though. Next up here, I'm sad to see this one go, but it went out with a bang here. The finale of Big Game, the first ever Millar World crossover. So all the Mark Millar properties that he's done through Image literally crossed over in this, where basically you've had all the bad guys of the Millar World universe that included the characters from Wanted and Nemesis, all teaming up to take out the new generation of heroes. Basically, if you know like the Jupiter's Legacy story, just like the bad guys did in the 1980s. So, and Wanted, it's kind of they're all kind of linked together. The bad guys took out all the superheroes in the 80s and made the world forget they were superheroes. Then a new generation of heroes comes up and they basically figure out, you know what, we got to go take these guys out again here. So, Of course, this is the big finale here. It's a little bit bigger issue than the usual one, so this one's actually $8 for the finale here. But yeah, it's pretty much double sized here, and it's just splash page after splash page of a whole bunch of heroes and villains fighting each other. It's glorious. Great ending to it. Definitely won't be a sequel, but lots of great callbacks to the Millar World stuff. So we'll see if they're going to do like another crossover, maybe in the future or whatnot. But this one here was very choice. Love that. A book I'm very happy to see come back after taking a bit of a hiatus, but Vault Comics Door to Door Night by Night by Colin Bunn. This is, though it says issue 7, this is actually issue 7 and 8. It's a double issue. Which is really cool because you open it up and you see the main cover, but then when you get to issue 8, you get the main cover and a variant, one page after the other here. But yeah, awesome double issue here. But this basically tells the tale of a group of door-to-door salesmen who are supporting your local fire department by selling like Sears family photo packages, sort of thing like that. But they also get caught up in the world of monster hunting. So now with each town they go to, they find, what the local lore is, problems they're having with local monsters, and they go and take care of the problem here. So you get a new member of the group in this 2-issue package here. Some backstory on one of our characters has been with us from the beginning. And unfortunately, we do lose a member of our core group as well. So, in a rather brutal fashion here. So, what will that spell for the future of our group of salesmen here? I don't know, but again, love this book here. Like I said, this is issue 7 and 8. The first 6 issues should be fairly easy to get a hold of. I know they did a trade paperback of 1 through 4, so yeah, should be fairly easy to get a hold of there. Let's see here. Dave asking, did you ever read War of the Independents from maybe 15 years ago? All the indie comics had a giant crossover. You know what? I don't think I ever did read that. I'm familiar with that crossover, but I don't think I ever read that before. I'll check that one out. Yeah, was it things from like Dark Horse and Image and other companies like that, or I'm curious about that. And last one, a couple of ones I got to give a little bit of criticism to here. First off, we've got for IDW Comics, John Ridley's Ministry of Compliance. Now, I normally love John Ridley. This book has been getting a lot of hype because it's basically a sci-fi epic. Essentially, the Ministry of Compliance is part of a larger organization of essentially an alien takeover. Now, whether or not these aliens are shapeshifters or they all look human, but essentially they all look human, they're trying to take over Earth in every facet we can, or they can, I should say. But Earth has started to figure out what's going on and kind of revolt against them, causing a lot of upheaval and whatever else. So, again, sci-fi epic. It's also very bloody. There's a lot of gore in here because basically our girl here on the front cover here, she uses that blade very effectively. But she's kind of the leader of the Ministry of Compliance. And basically when somebody acts up or needs to be taken out of the picture, she makes them compliant by basically separating their head from the rest of their body or limbs from, in extremities from the body, sort of thing like that, in very swift fashion. But yeah, kind of very much like Michonne in The Walking Dead. This chick is good with a sword. So, but it kind of rambles a lot, and I mean, this is a little bit thicker issue than a usual number 1 here. It's a $6 book, and it's about it feels like a double issue here, but it's kind of reminiscent sometimes of when Jonathan Hickman gets a little wordy, and that's kind of its problem. So I hope it picks up, gets a little more actiony. But yeah, there was a lot of exposition, a lot of stuff to get through, and it kind of felt it sometimes. So it took a little bit to get through there. On the other hand, though, the art team here of Rafali and Brad, can't remember Rafali's first name, I'm sorry. And then Brad Anderson does the colors on here. The art is spectacular. This front cover is very reminiscent, or, indicative of what the art is inside, but beautiful art. So just got to pick up the pace on the writing. But that's really my only, my only critique on it. Because again, I'm a big John Ridley fan, so just stepped up a little bit. Now, the one book I do have to bash just a little bit here, and strangely enough, this was a hot book for us this week at the shop here. But from Ablaze, a new zombie book called Almost Dead, written by a podcaster and movie reviewer and whatnot by the name of Galaxy, and art by Ryan Benjamin. Now, I will say Ryan Benjamin's art is gorgeous. This is probably one of the best looking zombie books I've seen in a while. It's a color book, but just, like I said, just gorgeous, very detailed art. The writing is just pedantic. I mean, this is a perfect book for people who have maybe had a head injury and have memory issues and sometimes have trouble reading because you can't remember what you read previously or whatever else. This is a great book for you because this is literally just plotting exposition, just leading you by your coattails. Just the most amateurish writing I've ever seen in a zombie book. And this is supposedly taken like we're supposed to be doing like a more cinematic style of book here. But I mean, it's just like, for God's sakes, the lead character hits her head and gets knocked out 3 times in this first issue within a 72-hour period. It's like, how are you not just completely brain dead already? But that happens in this book here. So, but it's a writing trope to pass time and to cause confusion that is used far too often in the first issue. Like I said, just bad exposition in here. Just, yeah. The only reason I finished this book was because Ryan Benjamin's art, again, is gorgeous. So if this were better written, I would be more excited about it, but it's not. So, whew, it's just bad. Seth chiming in saying he loves when I go hard. Yeah, I don't bash stuff too often. I think the last time I bashed something this bad was Batman Fortress, because that was a terrible book. But Derek Robertson's art, again, loved it. Absolutely gorgeous. So, some of these books, just the writing is just, that's what I've got my biggest beef with on some of this stuff here. So, but yeah, there you go. So that's my comic picks for this week here. So a lot of stuff. Those are currently available at your local comic shop. And yes, Seth, I also got you a door-to-door night by night. So, you're good to go on that one. Next week, we got a lot of cool stuff coming out. I know we got issue 2 of Dracula, so I'm very excited about that one. Another Conan's coming out with a new story arc, so I'm happy about that. So all kinds of fun stuff here. So, and of course, it's the Thanksgiving holiday Thursday, and Black Friday's on Friday. So I'm sure your local comic shop's got a bunch of sales and stuff going on. I know we at Clobber are going to have something for a bit of a Black Friday sale. So yeah, check your local comic stores to see what sort of deals they have. Give them some support as well, and go buy you some good books. So we're going to take a break for just a second here to acknowledge our sponsor, Comic Books for Kids. And then when we get back, we got to talk some movies.
Comic Books for Kids provides comic books to kids in hospitals and cancer centers across the U.S. It's a place where we can all work together to make sure every child has a comic book. 100% of all proceeds go towards the kids. It's about making a difference, and while they're in the hospital, allowing them to fly like a superhero, battle dragons, or rescue teddy bears. We are in every state in the country and now support over 160 hospitals. Every month, we add more.
Visit cb4k.org.
And we're back. I can't move my camera. Caroline getting the business already. All right. So tonight's subject is Fanatic's favorites. So this is basically, for the next several weeks, I'm going to basically cover movies and TV, because I think I've only got like one TV selection, so mostly this is movie stuff. But things I grew up on, things I really enjoy that mean a lot to me. And so I want to share that with you guys, because there's been times I've talked about some older movies and things that I grew up on or, loved for years, that I took for granted that a lot of people knew, and then surprised me that some didn't. So while these are movies that are very familiar to me, they may not be familiar to some of you guys out there. So I'd like to share some stuff with you. So I'm going to kind of do different themes. I've got, tonight's theme is definitely an action theme here. I've got some comedy stuff coming up. I've got horror comedy coming up. And I've got a bit of a musical theme as well, but not your traditional musical stuff here. We're not talking My Fair Lady or, Oklahoma or anything like that. We're talking movies that are very heavily music involved, but they're not show tunes. So just to be clear. Anywho, so tonight's features, we're going to talk about one of my favorite sword and sandal movies that was kind of lost to the world for a while because it didn't have a current DVD or Blu-ray release. And then finally last year, Shout Factory came through and brought back The Sword and the Sorcerer here. That, of course, is a glorious collector's edition on Blu-ray and 4K. Lots of special features on there. I even got a poster with it. And the great thing was too that Albert Pune, who was the director of this film, passed away. I think earlier this year. So he was actually able to do a new commentary and some behind the scenes stuff before he passed away on this. So basically his work is now forever on this stuff, and then of course his voice and thoughts and everything are recorded as well. So that's just absolutely great. But yeah, of course, this is actually the DVD cover as well here, but this was definitely indicative of the poster that came out in 1982. But the plot of this movie is that you've got a young, soon-to-be king, whatever else. His family is murdered by the evil Lord Cromwell, who's trying to usurp the throne. So young Talon goes into hiding for years, becomes an adventurer, that sort of thing like that. In the meanwhile, there is a young prince and princess who are trying to, revolt against the evil Cromwell and take the throne for themselves and rule the land with, benevolence and yada yada yada. Also, to help take over said throne, Cromwell had to team up with a evil demonic sorcerer named Zucia. And in the process of taking over said throne, he basically backstabs Zucia and kind of, sticks him in a dungeon, sort of thing like that, basically entraps him, whatever else. And so all these years now where, Talon grows up, Cromwell's been running the throne here, Zucia has been plotting his revenge, building his strength back up, that sort of thing like that. So basically in the end, we get, lots of fighting, revolts, sort of thing like that. And Talon, of course, wins the day, sort of stuff like that. This was a, absolute indie, in my opinion, masterpiece because it's a lot of fun, made with a lot of heart. And of course, 82, it's all practical effects and blood and stuff like that. And, it's not a difficult movie to follow. It's no Lord of the Rings or anything like that. So it's pretty easy plot wise to go through. And just, lots of gimmicky, fun practical effects and stuff. The cast basically is our lead Talon, who was played by Lee Horsley. And you may know him from the 80s drama Hotel, a lot of TV work and stuff like that. But yeah, this was probably one of his biggest roles today. He was kind of, trying to branch out in the film, be a leading man sort of thing like that. And while the film actually did really well in theaters and made a lot of money, it, it ended up not being the vehicle he thought it was going to be. So, I mean, Lee Horsley was a steady working actor throughout his career, but not the, great leading man he actually wanted to be with this. The cast also includes Kathleen Beller as the lovely Princess Alana. Her brother, who was Prince Micah, is played by Simon McCorkindale, who you guys may know best as Manimal. Richard Lynch played the evil Cromwell. Richard Lynch is one of those great 70s, 80s character actors. Each dude just looked evil. He always played bad guys. Great chin. Always had like a beard, kind of covered that too, and just looked nasty and evil. And then lastly, the evil wizard Zucia was played by the most recently departed Richard Mall. This, of course, was a few years before his success with Night Court. So at this point in his career, Richard Mall basically played a lot of like monsters in suits, bad guys in makeup and stuff like that. He because he was in the Dungeon Master movie, which was kind of like a D&D kind of rip off, sort of thing like that. played a lot of, just gnarly big bad guys in suits because, I mean, he was a, very tall man. So, but, apparently a gentle giant from what we hear backstage. But yeah, so he was the evil wizard Zusha. Now, if you haven't seen this film or you vaguely remember it, you may remember this best because Talon has his father's sword, this royal blade, which basically was a triple bladed sword, and then basically all the blades also shot out like projectiles as well. So came in very handy because basically Cromwell and Zusha both meet their ends essentially at the end of the sword here, but they also get shot with as well. So very killer effect back in the day. So it looked great there. Seth tuning in saying Albert Pune was his first professional interview. That's right. I forgot you got to talk to him. Great guy. Yeah, that's exactly what I heard. He was, just a wonderful guy. Just a great genre director. He did a lot of, fantasy, sci-fi, went a tiny little bit into horror, but yeah, mostly was just kind of, Sword the Sorcerer was kind of his best received and most successful film to date. And actually, the interesting thing was this was considered 1982's most successful independent film because it was made for, I think, little right around 10 million, and it made over 40 million at the box office. So there you go. They had teased at the end of the film that there would be a sequel called Tales of an Ancient Empire, but we did not get that sequel until 2012. And it was a straight to DVD film. Lee Horsley was in the film briefly, reprising his role as Talon, but the lead, one of the lead roles went to Kevin Sorbo of the Hercules show. So didn't get the best reviews. Was not as well received as the original, but he finally did get to make a sequel. But originally, this was planned to be basically a series of films that were all going to be kind of within the same world, would have interconnected characters and sort of thing like that, but not necessarily be related to each other. Like maybe Talon would pop up in the next film, but he wouldn't be the lead in it. Maybe he would help out a little bit, or he'd be in the one scene or whatever else. But that was kind of initially the plan for these to do several films or whatnot. But either way, but yeah, just in the world that we had of like the Conan the Barbarians and the Beastmasters and Deathstalkers, Dragon Slayer, Your Warrior of the Future, so many sword and sandal flicks of like this kind, and I ate all that stuff up. Granted, of course, Conan the Barbarian, I think probably would be like the tentpole of those films, the best of the best. The original Beastmaster would probably be the second to that because I'm a big fan of that one. But Sword and the Sorcerer, I thought was a fantastic, fun film. Again, this is not an Oscar-winning film here. This is not a highbrow epic like the Lord of the Rings stuff, but this is definitely a fun adventure film here. Wouldn't necessarily say safe for the kids because there is a lot of blood and gore and some nudity in here, but for the older kids, because maybe I think I saw this one, maybe I was about like 10 or 11, so yeah, it might be okay for the older kids here, but yeah, definitely a lot of fun here. Dave Manley chiming in saying that this talk of older sorcery movies is putting me in the mood for Jeffrey Combs' Dr. Morbid. Yeah, or Mordred, yes. Oh, love Dr. Mordred. That was a great one. The Charles Band Full Moon Studios trying to do their own Doctor Strange, and it was fun as hell. Absolutely loved it. So, and did they do any more? There was just the one. Because I think they wanted to do more, and I don't know why they didn't, but yeah, that's a lot of fun. And granted, there was a Doctor Strange film that was in the late 70s that essentially you probably can find it, out on YouTube or whatever else. Though it did actually get a home video release, it was technically a made for TV film. Seth Moore saying Jeffrey Combs can do no wrong. Dave Mattingly agrees. Yeah, love me some Jeffrey Combs. Great genre actor. Reanimator is a modern day classic, in my opinion. But yeah, so again, yeah, Sword and the Sorcerer, fantastic movie there. But yeah, great bring up there, Dave, with Dr. Mordred. Love that one. Worth checking that one out, folks. Our second film to talk about here, and this was one I championed basically since its release back in the day here. This was my OG DVD here, which I have not updated to Blu-ray because I know this actually is on Blu-ray. But this was basically the red-headed stepchild next to the popularity of Top Gun. This is Iron Eagle from 1986. Like I said, this came out literally the same year that Top Gun came out. Top Gun was, hugely popular, sort of thing like that. Though this was a much different story than Top Gun, this easily got compared to it. This was directed by Sidney J. Furie, who was very much a journeyman director. He did all kinds of movies, British director. Probably his two most known films were the Ipcress Files, which was a Michael Caine spy thriller that he actually won a BAFTA award for, and then also the classic Lady Sings the Blues, which is the biopic on Billie Holiday, starring Diana Ross and Billy D. Williams. So, a fantastic film there. Highly recommend checking that out. But yeah, so Sidney J. Furie was very much a journeyman director. So it wasn't like he was, hugely invested. This was just, a job that sounded like a good idea. So that sort of thing like that. The real driving force behind this was Kevin Allen Enders. Kevin was the screenwriter for Iron Eagle, but he wrote the entire series because basically this Iron Eagle spawned 3 sequels. You've got Iron Eagle 2, Ace's Iron Eagle 3, and Iron Eagle, I think with the On the Attack. Yeah, that's right. That was the 4th one. So the other 3 sequels were all direct-to-video releases. Iron Eagle was the only one that actually played in theaters. But basically all the films were successful. Let's see, we had like a $10 million budget, made about $24 million at the box office. I think it had even more of a success when it got to home video, and then of course people saw it on cable a lot. I rented it initially; that's where I saw it. But the plot of the story is you get Air Force Colonel Ted Masters is shot down over the Mediterranean Sea in a dispute with some Israeli fighters, it's kind of never 100% clear. They refer to themselves as like the Ministry of Defense, so it probably could also be Iraq as well, but Middle Eastern aggressors, essentially, over which lines of the side they're on, and basically they say the Americans were invading, so that's why they attack. So basically, Tim Thomerson, who plays the Colonel Ted Masters, of course, Ted was a storied genre film actor himself. Did a lot of the Charles Band stuff like Doll Man. He had the Transfer series as well. He did a lot of those. So yeah, he great guy, good comedic actor, but also could do some action kind of stuff as well. And so in the process that, Ted is captured by these Middle Eastern aggressors, he's put on trial and is sentenced to death. So the U.S. Air Force is, sympathetic, but they really can't do anything about this without basically starting World War III. So Ted's young son, Doug, who is played by Jason Gedrick, decides that he's going to take it upon himself because he's a, future pilot. He has a lot of talent, but has a tendency to basically rock out when he's in flight. So this soundtrack really rocks out. Probably the most rocking soundtrack I would say probably since like Apocalypse Now, because you've got like Twisted Sister, Dio, Queen, lesser known bands like King Cobra are on here. Even like George Clinton and James Brown are on the soundtrack. So it's like just fantastic music on here. So better than the Top Gun, the freaking Kenny Loggins, whatever. But anyway, so Doug and his buddies decide that they're going to get a plan to, get Doug in the plane and go over there and rescue his dad because he thinks he can do it all by himself. Well, he realizes he kind of can't, and he ends up meeting Louis Gossett Jr.'s character, Colonel Charles Sinclair, who is a semi-retired pilot, but also is a mechanic as well, and just a great overall character. So, also kind of a bit plays the stereotypical magical Negro in the movie because he basically is able to provide all things, provide all wisdom, and help out in this thing here what otherwise no adults or the Air Force would do. So there's that element to it as well. But yeah, so Chappie helps out Doug and his buddies, and they fly their mission. And short but sweet, they rescue Dad and all is well. Of course, they even do a thing where you think that Chappie is killed, but he's shot down. But it turns out he bailed out. He's okay, and everything ends all happy. Just a fun movie. Very good flight sequences in here. Interestingly enough, they had zero help from the United States because basically the plot is essentially that Doug steals an F-16. And so we can't condone that. So you can't use our plane. So basically all the planes you see in the movie are of Israeli origin. They have their own F-16s and a few other things. So the only plane I think that's actually American is the beginning of the film. There is a race with a twin engine Cessna, or maybe no, there's a single engine Cessna racing against a couple of dirt bikes, and like a canyon sort of thing like that. So so that's the only American plane in the whole movie. So also interesting thing. The main bad guy, the Minister of Defense, Colonel Akir Nakesh, is played by David Suchet, who BBC fans may know best as a Poirot, the portly French detective with the big mustache there. Yeah, he ends up, because I guess his parents are of Middle Eastern origin, even though he was born British, has a very nice, lovely British accent and whatever else. But he kind of looked the part. So you get to be the Middle Eastern guy, that the bad guy there. So he gets to say pig a lot, American pigs and sort of thing like that. He pulls off a great accent, but yeah. So it was just funny that years later, I'm like, I see the Poirot, movies on BBC or the videotapes stuff like that. I'm like, dude, that's the guy from Iron Eagle. But you got a lot of cool character actors in this thing too, because Doug's buddies are played by Larry B. Scott, who you guys know from Revenge of the Nerds. Jerry Levine, who plays Tony. You guys know him best as Styles from Teen Wolf. Melora Hardin, who plays Doug's girlfriend Katie, is in this. I mean, she looks like a baby in this movie here. So years before she plays Jan in The Office, and all kinds of other roles she played too, I'm sure. But yeah, I know her. I'm an Office fan, so I know her best from there. Seth says, "Don't forget Iron Eagle 5: Journey Through Time." Wait, wasn't that a Beastmaster sequel? Dave comments that he's sort of like the Doll Man, but never saw the sequel. Yeah, the first Doll Man was good. I've never seen the sequels either. I've seen some of the Transfer sequels, but I've never seen the Doll Man stuff. But but yeah, Iron Eagle definitely was a favorite of mine because I guess I kind of consider myself a little bit of a nonconformist. So while basically everybody was on the teat of Top Gun and Tom Cruise's A number one sort of thing like that, I was kind of poo-pooing all that. Like, well, I like this little movie over here better, and it's got a better soundtrack because I mentioned Twisted Sister, Dio, King Cobra's in there. The big song from this movie is Queen's One Vision. Interestingly enough, an official soundtrack, I think the score was released for this movie, but an official soundtrack wasn't released until years later. So it was always kind of the joke that basically you had to buy Queen's album, A Kind of Magic, to both get the soundtracks to their soundtrack contributions to Highlander and also to Iron Eagle. So that was kind of funny. But so just One Vision is just an epic song if you know your Queen stuff, and it fits this movie perfectly. So Because like I said, Doug likes to rock out when it's time to fly, and especially when the battle scenes are starting there, and he's got to do some dog fighting with some professional soldiers, adults, whatever else. So that's the ridiculous thing about this movie is basically a teenager is perfectly capable who's got a lot of simulator time, a lot of time flying a single engine, Cessna, doing a little bit of time in an F-16 with as a co-pilot, but still being a hot dog, is able to fly overseas, rescue his dad, blow up a whole lot of bad guys, and get away with it all at the same time. What are you gonna do? But yeah, it's a fun movie, but one I definitely champion a lot here. Yeah, some interesting stuff here too. The main flight choreographer for the whole movie was the same guy who did the flight choreography for the helicopter film Blue Thunder. For Roy Scheider fans out there. Um, Also, there's they had like some really good stunt coordinators and flight coordinators for this film. The scene basically I was talking about the race at the beginning of the film. Basically, that was a famed stunt coordinator who did that one. Did a lot of stunt flying, whatever else. He's just had a huge career in films doing basically just flight stunts. So yeah, just good pedigree in this movie here. But yeah, it wasn't a huge success, not as big as Top Gun was. But like I said, it did merit 3 other sequels, and it didn't need 20 years to happen between sequels here. Interestingly enough, how the storyline goes that Iron Eagle 2, Doug joins the Air Force, and he's all grown up now, and he and Chappie are on a mission, and Doug gets shot down in combat. So that happens literally at the beginning of the movie because Jason Gedrick decided he didn't want to really do the second movie because he had other opportunities to do other movies that end up bombing. So yeah, he's basically the lead of the first movie is killed off at the beginning of the second film. So you get the rest of the movie where Chappie's all down in the mouth about Doug dying. The third film was kind of almost like a Dirty Dozen sort of thing. It's a off the books sort of mission, bit of a Suicide Squad sort of thing like that. But everybody's a pilot, but we're also doing a lot of like ground fighting as well. It was also the first of the series to be R-rated because everything else was PG-13. And then the final film, the Iron Eagle on the Attack, actually saw the return of the Doug Masters character, though not played by Jason Gedrick. What they basically did was they kind of reworked the beginning of the second film and said, "Oh, well, he was shot down, but he actually has been a prisoner of war this whole time. Basically he was captured, and they've had him on ice the whole time, just hanging in a prison cell or whatever the case may be." So then basically the whole operation is Chappie recruits a bunch of people together to go rescue Doug. So very reminiscent of the first film. It is the lowest budgeted of the film, very late in Louis Gossett Jr.'s career. While I appreciate that they brought back the character of Doug Masters, I will not say this is a good film. So there you go. Here we go. So we got a couple of comments here. Bill Doris popping in saying, yes, that was a Beastmaster scene. See, I thought that was Journey Through Time was a Beastmaster scene. There we go. Thank you, Bill. Dave says he's still never seen Top Gun. I will say, though, that Top Gun Maverick was actually really good. I enjoyed that a lot better than the original. So it's a lot less bro and has some good story to it. I think the flight scenes are actually incredible. Because you've got basically they still do it practical, but you've got today's cameras, so they can actually do a little bit more. So yeah, I don't worry about not seeing the original, but check out Maverick. They let you know everything you need to know everywhere. Seth said he's not sorry Top Gun sucked. Yep, there you go. Woo, thank you, sir. Bill says he was born a rock and roll. Dave saying buying a Queen album is no punishment. No, it certainly is not. When it comes to helicopters, it's Airwolf versus everyone, says Bill Doris. I would agree. Yeah, Airwolf was pretty badass. And I mean, Ernest Borgnine as your co-pilot, you can't go wrong. So there you go. Bill's asking, which Iron Eagle was it? that Louis Gossett Jr. yells, "That is the pride of Mother Russia." I think that's the third one, because I think there's like a Ruski that's on the team of Ragtag Misfits or something like that. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure that's the third one. Yeah, Aces. It's all bad fun, but but Aces is a lot of fun. Dave Manley saying 3 years after this, Louis Gossett Jr.'s co-star with Dolph Lundgren in The Punisher, still his favorite screen version of the character. You know what? Punisher was one of those movies that initially I was a little disappointed with because they didn't do as much of the comic booky stuff. But upon later reflection, Dolph Lundgren's Punisher actually isn't that bad. I wish they would have highlighted the scene of him spray painting the flak jacket with the skull on there, so we kind of like, hey, we've got the skull on here. But it wasn't like they didn't have the rights to it or anything like that. It was just a choice the filmmakers made, so maybe they want to do it a little more grounded. But I know there's somebody writing a book about the '89 Punisher, kind of like behind the scenes sort of stuff like that. And I think there's probably they're trying to get a domestic release on Blu-ray and 4K, because I think you can get one overseas, but it's not region friendly for U.S. players. So if you have a region-free player, you're okay. So apparently there's like a lot of really good behind-the-scenes stuff, cut scenes, things like that. But the '89 Punisher, it's not my favorite on-screen version of the Punisher, but I will say, upon later reflection, I've definitely given that one a little bit, better one there. Bill saying Doug Masters is the OG Winter Soldier. I love that. Dave Manning saying Tom Cruise does play a good lawyer. Liked him in A Few Good Men and The Firm. Yeah, definitely liked him in A Few Good Men. That's a good flick. So yeah, I've gotten over my Tom Cruise hatred. Initially in the '80s, I was really annoyed by him, but I started to. I think the Mission Impossible movies. Whoops, knocking my cord out again here. Sorry, guys. The Mission Impossible movies are definitely turned my opinion around on him than other later films, especially Magnolia. His performance in Magnolia was staggeringly good. Yeah. But I'm giving him more of a chance these days here. But yeah, in the '80s, I had my hate on for Tom. But yeah, he's definitely has played some better roles over the years. That's for sure, Dave. Seth saying that there's a region-free German Blu-ray of The Punisher. The transfer is not good. It's the uncut version of the film, though. Oh, cool. I think the uncut version of the film is also on YouTube as well. So yeah, I'm gonna have to, because I've seen the scenes. I've never seen them cut in the film. Interestingly enough, if you get the comic book adaptation, it's got all the cut scenes in it, plus a few more that I don't think they even shot. Because actually they do highlight, basically like when basically Frank is gearing up right at the end there to basically take on all the bad guys, and he basically spray paints, a white skull on his flak jacket, and that's, dons the classic Punisher emblem there. So so I'm definitely curious to see this again, to see those restored scenes in there. But if you guys have not checked out the Dolph Lundgren Punisher, it's interesting. He hangs out in the sewer a lot, but worth checking out there. Dave Manning saying sci-fi Tom Cruise is decent too. Minority Report, Edge of Tomorrow, yes. Oblivion, I really like Oblivion. That's a good one. It's a very pretty movie, but I definitely like Oblivion as well. It's like good kind of mind twisty kind of movie there. So so those are a couple of my Fanatic favorites there I want to share with you guys there. So again, my picks for this week: the Sword and the Sorcerer from 1982, which is finally available in a very nice, lovely 4K Blu-ray with lots of extra trimmings, double disc sort of thing like that. And then, of course, Iron Eagle from 1986. And excuse my old DVD, this is available on Blu-ray. It is very cheap. This is not an expensive movie or anything like that. I don't even think it says a commentary or anything like that on it. So it does have an interactive menu, though. So, woo! All right, so next week we're going to talk some comedy stuff here because I definitely want to bring up a favorite series of mine that I think does not get Caroline, please, does not get enough attention, and that is the Police Squad series, which essentially was the basis that the Naked Gun films were taken from here. So you get comedy stuff from Leslie Nielsen, but yeah, it's perfect. It's only 6 episodes. I highly recommend you guys checking that out if you have not. So we will definitely talk about it. And then another movie I want to bring up that may or may not be considered a comedy, but is definitely a favorite of a lot of people, close to the heart. Um, a movie with a lot of best intentions, but maybe the execution wasn't quite there. And that is Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon. So those are my picks for next week. We're going to talk about those, and it will be Black Friday, so we'll be getting over our malaise from being stuffed full of turkey and all that stuff. So so yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about those movies with you guys here, and maybe I'll have a guest next week here to talk about that stuff. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see about that. So I'm going to talk about some obscure, weird stuff. So I may not want to take everybody down the path with me here. I may just want to, you know, navigate these dangerous waters alone for you guys. So anyway, you guys have yourself a fantastic weekend. Enjoy your Thanksgiving here. I know we certainly are. My junior fanatic, Seth Moore, is going to be coming over here, sharing the holiday with us. So we look forward to having him over here. But yeah, Thanksgiving is one of my favorites because it's the holiday where Michelle makes a wonderful meal and I don't leave the house. So that's the best. Anywho, you all have yourselves a wonderful weekend and a wonderful holiday, and we will see you Black Friday next time on the Fanatic Forum. Take care, everybody.